Currently in the middle of a deload week, and I've programmed my next block of training, my next 3 weeks of training, and I just thought it'd be interesting to share because I like talking about programming. By no means is this going to set the world alight. If you're looking for a video that's going to be like, this is the hardest workout you've ever done, your head is going to be in a bin, being sick, it's not that. It covers my strengths and weaknesses, hits a variety of rep ranges, but it's a normal program. This is the sort of stuff that you pretty much want to be following, at least in my opinion. For the majority of your training, you want to be following stuff that you can stick to and keep and maintain. This is what this program is about. It follows the Westside Barbell conjugate method. It's 2 max effort days and 2 dynamic effort days. Basically what that means is the max effort days are, I like to say, the grind days. It's the ones where you're loading up the bar and you're trying to move the weight, or you're trying to move as much weight as possible. The dynamic effort days are far more about speed. How quickly can you move a load? Strength and speed equals power. The more power that you have, the better that your lifts are, and the more that you can lift out of it. Hence, powerlifting rather than strength lifting, because that'd be strongman. That'd be strongman. Wow, that's just suddenly clicked in my head. So, the way that I've got it planned is I do a max effort upper body day, a max effort lower body day, rest day, dynamic effort upper body day, dynamic effort lower body day. Wow, mouthful. So to begin with, I'm going through my max effort upper body day. Now, down here, I've got A1, B1, C1, and then it's going to go into C2. Now, basically what that means is if it's an A1, it's a single exercise. If it's C1, C2, it ends up being a superset. It's just so I know where I'm programming it and where I'm meant to be doing stuff. So my first exercise is a flat floor barbell press. Last month was mainly conventional lifts. So last month was a barbell flat bench press. This month I'm going from the floor. Now I really like a floor press. This is working up to a max set of 3. The floor press works really well purely because, one, if you have shoulder problems, it cuts that range of motion and stops you going as deep. Usually when people go too deep, that's when the shoulder and the rotator cuffs come into a bit of peril. And also it works on like a bit of a sticking point in the mid range. So if you feel like as you're driving up, that midpoint of your bench tends to get stuck, a flat barbell floor press is probably a good way to do. You can also go with dumbbells in that floor press too. I'm then going into some weighted tricep dips. Now, being completely honest, my tricep dips are arse. They are not particularly good. So last month I was working on those in a higher rep range. This month I'm adding some weight to it and I'm going 5 sets of 3 to 5 reps. Really working within that strength range and trying to get the most out of it. Do I think that will be adding a lot of weight to those? No, but some weight is better than no weight. And also it means that I'm overloading that tricep, which means that my press is going to get better out of that. Let's see if this scrolls. It does, hooray! The small things in life. C1 and C2 are a cable machine row for 3 sets of 15. That, after I've done a lot of pressing and then a lot of dipping, I know full well my shoulders fall in. So that cable row is just to reset those shoulders, getting some pull in. And if you notice there, 3 sets of 15, I will probably be hitting a similar amount of volume with that movement as I would do with the floor press too. So it evens those out a little bit. I'm then going into a full range of motion dumbbell lat raise. Basically that's arms down by the side, right up overhead. Now, that sort of goes out of my conventional trainer for where I wouldn't particularly bring any sort of raise up above 90 degrees because it starts bringing in the traps. However, what I'm coming to realize more is if we need a full range of motion, we need to be strong in that entire range. I struggle a little bit with this overhead position. So one, that requires some mobility, but two, it requires stability too. So the full range of motion dumbbell lat raise is very much about creating a stability in a full range of motion. So as my arm comes up above that 90-degree point, it's looking to keep that controlled, switching off the traps and making sure that it's moving from the shoulder. Final part of that workout, D1 decline sit-ups. Again, this sort of goes against my conventional trainer thought, where usually I'm very much about core stability and fundamental movements and functional movements, to steal a term. However, I don't really do much sit-ups, and I find that out of all sit-ups, the decline position seems to work better for me. Also, it means I can hook my feet in and get more out of my abs. And also, it's a little bit comfier on my tailbone because, like, this is inside scoop. I've got a bit of a weird tailbone that sort of, like, just juts out a little bit. Sit-ups are super uncomfortable. So whenever they're programmed, I'm like, thanks, I'm going to be here all day. Whereas the decline one, it's on a bench. It feels a little bit more comfortable in that. Day 2 is my max effort lower body day. Now I'm going back into some conventional barbell deadlifts, working up to a max set of 3. Last month was squatting, this month is deadlifting. Pretty standard. It'll be interesting to get back into a deadlift. Probably going to end up chalking up, and I usually go overhand as much as possible rather than switching to a mixed grip, just because I think it's better for the shoulders and better for that back position overall. Doesn't build an asymmetry into it. However, I may go into a mixed grip to save my grip. B1 is an easy bar hip thrust for 5 sets of 5. Now, I quite like the easy bar hip thrust. I've done it a couple of times, and I find that the bar sits quite nicely into the legs. The problem with it is that I'm probably not going to be able to load it up to a super maximal weight, but I think I'll still be able to put enough weight onto it that I can feel it, that I can get a lot out of it, and I can get my glutes activating. I would much rather take that slower, take the weight down a little bit, and make sure that I get a full range of motion. Yeah, especially when you don't have a pad, like one of the bar pads. The easy bar is actually a really good way of going with a hip thrust. It takes that pressure out of it, because God knows if you've ever done a hip thrust without a pad onto it, your like hip bones know about it. From there, C1 is a safety bar assisted lunge into some weighted calf raises. Shout out to us. The safety bar assisted lunge might take some MacGyvering, because I'm not entirely sure if the bar's going to sit on my shoulders without my hands on it, so we'll see. That might change during the sessions. The reason why I'm going assisted lunge is because I want to make sure that I can load up, keep stability, keep my foot planted right, but give myself a little bit of assistance when it comes to the balance. And for weighted calf raises, I mean, like, I can't remember the last time I did calf raises. Like, I just don't particularly do them, which is why I thought I might get some in here, because again, similar to that lat raise range of motion, the calf needs some work into it, so adding a bit of a supplementary thing in there should help in terms of my ankle movements. D1 bird dog, classic core movement, just to get it in, working on some stability, keeping that back flat. Dynamic effort upper body day starts off with some flat dumbbell bench press, 9 sets of 3 reps at 50% of a 1 rep max. That's a lot of numbers. My conventional barbell deadlift is about moved me right off there, didn't it? Got battery, it's cool. My conventional barbell deadlift sits at the moment about 105. It's not great, but it's okay. If I was to set that into dumbbells, probably be pressing 50s. I definitely wouldn't be pressing 50s for one, that's silly. But if we're working out that way, so 50% of that would be 25 kilograms in hand. I had to do that maths in my head to make sure that I would be pressing the right weight. So 25s for 3 sets, keeping the power, keeping the speed. I'm then going to go into chin-ups, but rather than having a straight bar into this position, I'm going to use the bars over the cable machine, having more of a neutral grip position. Again, I've got some funny stuff going in my shoulder and my elbow, which means that this supinated grip is fairly uncomfortable, whereas a more neutral grip tends to sit better. So I'm hoping that I can get a lot more out of the chin-ups. Again, if that needs to be weighted at some point to get the right amount out of it, I'll weight them. Probably not, because I'm terrible at pull-ups and chin-ups. C1, dumbbell front raise. Just looking to hit the front and hit the anterior delt. Again, it's just a bit of a different position. I've gone from lat raises in the first session into some front raises. So again, it's trying to hit that full range of motion on the shoulder. That then supersets with a bat wing row, which is in a hip hinge position. You row into your body, arms come out to the side, and then they go back down again. It's very much hitting the rear delt. So here, I'm hitting the front delt, then I'm hitting the rear delt alongside of it. Again, getting some back working and trying to set those shoulders alongside that chin up, trying to get the back activated and pulling. Keeping the decline sit up in from day one, just because like core work is core work, if I'm being completely honest, and it's just nice just to keep that in and go. Don't have to think about it. I know what I'm doing. In we go. Final day, A1 leg press, 10 to 12 sets of 2 reps at 70 to 80% of a 1 rep max. My 1 rep max on squat would be at the moment probably around 120. I've not really tested it, if I'm being completely honest. That would obviously go up on a leg press. So week 1 is definitely going to be a case of having a bit of a play about where that's actually sitting. I don't really do a leg press much. It's not a usual movement for me. Again, if you're familiar with my work, you know I'm very big on fundamental movements that we can do day to day. The leg press is a machine. However, it's important to bring it in. It overloads the legs. It means I can move more weight. So I wanted to experiment with it and just get it in there. D1, deficit dumbbell deadlift. This is 6 to 10 reps, 6 to 10 sets of 1 to 3 reps at 60 to 85% of a 1 rep max. Now with that, that's just going to be a case of finding heavy dumbbells that can stand up. I will be stood on some sort of box. The key with this is the dumbbell will be going past my regular range of motion. I'm definitely going to film this. It's definitely going to go online because I see it all too often where deficit deadlifts do not go anywhere near a deficit. Again, I think I'm going to struggle with that one in terms of finding the right weight for it, but we'll see. Again, it's very much testing out, giving things a go and seeing what I can get out of them. C1 and C2, cable pull through, working that booty, getting that booty pump on, getting the peach. 3 sets of 10 to 12, really just to work on that hinge position. Sits a little bit like a good morning, which then works on that erector spinae. Basically keeping the back straight and keeping it tall as I'm moving through that motion. And then C2 is walking lunges because I hate myself. I don't like walking lunges, but I know that I probably need to program them in. A lunge pattern is really good for unilateral leg strength. Again, the better the unilateral leg strength, the better the bilateral leg strength. Squats. D2, back into that bird dog again. Well, sorry, D1, back into that bird dog again. Same reasoning as why I had a decline sit-up on day 3. Just keeps it simple. Don't have to think about it. Just go and do it. And that's the program. Yeah, it's not meant to set the world alight. It's not meant to be the hardest program in the world. It's meant to test me and it's meant to push me, but not to the point where I'm puking. It's not what my training's about at the moment. Thanks, laptop. Off again. It's meant to make me better. It's meant to work on my strengths and work on my weaknesses, definitely. Put me into some different ranges of motion. Put me onto some machines that I'm not particularly using at the moment and I wouldn't particularly go to straight away. But that's the point of programming, is that we use programming to get the most out of our sessions, to track what we're doing, and also to basically force us to do things that we wouldn't usually do. I know full well that if I was going into a gym to work out, I would have certain movements that were like, I like this one, I like this one, I like this one. If I did that every single time that I went in, I would never progress because I would get stuck. And I think that's what a lot of people do. Whereas with this program, trying to push myself out of my boundaries and out of my regular comfort zones, do some movements that I don't particularly do much of. And who knows, they might become movements that I quite enjoy doing. I hope you found this video informative, or at least spark some conversation out of yourself in terms of what you do on a regular. If you've watched this and you've gone, well, that's dumb, what are you doing that for? Please drop me a message, drop me a comment, because I'd love to have a discussion about it. I like talking about programming because I'm a nerd. So, yeah. Cheers, team. Peace.